Today on AGetc, we have a four-part series about innovations in irrigation systems from Jonathan Aguilar, an Extension Water Resources engineer. See the different types of systems and how you can integrate these technologies into your current water conservation plans for the future. And we'll end with K-State Livestock Feed Safety Specialist Cassandra Jones talking about what this virus can do to the swine industry in the U.S. and what producers need to do to keep from getting this virus. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here and have this opportunity to be able to talk with you. Again, my name is Jonathan Aguilar, and I'm based out in Garden City. I work with the Kansas State Research and Extension. By profession, I am an agricultural engineer. I'm an irrigation engineer by research interest. I'm a extension specialist by majority of appointment, and I'm a farmer by family interest. So before I talk about innovation irrigation, I just like to let you know that I got interested with agriculture because of my dad. My dad was a weekend farmer, and he usually asked me to go to the field when he visits the farm and just look around. Our farm is probably very small, way back in the Philippines. It's about 20 acres roughly, with rice, coconut, mango, black pepper, and all of the other things that you could probably think of in terms of fruit crops or tropical fruits. But that's one of the reasons why I got interested with agricultural engineering. And of course, the fact that I got tired drying rice in the pavement, manually drying them in the field, and so I thought that there must be another way, there must be a better way. So that got me interested with agriculture. So fast forward, I learned about agricultural engineering, and I'm passionate about irrigation management. From the source of the water towards where it is being applied. So from the source to the application of the water to the field, that's my passion right now. So I mentioned about my Philippine background. Why? Because I've learned about and saw a lot of irrigation system, from the best to the worst, from different conditions, from the driest, where we have in western Kansas about 16 inches of rainfall in a year, to the wettest in the Philippines, where we got 10 feet of rainfall in a year. So I've seen them being applied in different situations and different conditions. But there's really, wherever you are, there are interesting things that are going on in terms of irrigation. So what I'm going to talk to you today is about three things that I think is very interesting in Kansas. So I'll focus on application sprinkler packages. The other thing would be irrigation scheduling. And the third, that probably some of your peers are also involved, is the peer-to-peer learning that we are having with a network of water technology farms. So those are the three things that I'm going to talk about. So first of all, for those people that have not really been involved in a lot of irrigation, so what is irrigation? Why do we irrigate? Well, the most critical answer is that we would like to grow crops. So I've seen, if you are really in a dry area and you don't have any water, that crop is not going to grow without any water. So irrigation is key. But for a practical reason, why we irrigate is for crop to boost productivity. So in Kansas, overall, we've got only 15% of irrigated land. But that 15% actually contributes about 30% in terms of our state economy, in terms of crop production. So there is a way that you could probably boost the production by just the irrigation system. So those are the key things that I'd probably talk more about as we go on to today.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
The new Better Horses Network is worldwide. Presented by Lucas Oil. Featuring worldwide radio and TV with iconic hosts like Al Dunning, Sharon Camarillo, Ernie Rodina, Lindy Birch, and Craig Cameron. With American Cowboy, Horse and Rider, Brushy Creek, Cavenders, and Ride TV. Worldwide radio and TV. The all-new Better Horses Network.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
So what's really interesting about irrigation field right now? So there's a couple things that are going on. So an irrigation system pumps water. In this case, it pumps water from the ground or from any other source, and it tries to deliver that water to where the crop is for beneficial use. So it's going to apply that water for the beneficial use. So in our toolbox of irrigation system, we've got the best and we've got the worst. For the worst, we've got the irrigation, the surface irrigation is probably the least efficient of all of the irrigation systems that are out there. So think of me as the water that is being pumped by an irrigation system. So if I am being applied in the field using a surface irrigation system, half of me is going to be lost, either through the canals or through the other means of losing it. So half of me is only going to be used by the crop. So the best tool that we have, irrigation system that we have so far, are what we call the subsurface drip irrigation. So these drip tapes are being buried below the ground, and it applies the water right where the root zone is. And that way, the water is being used efficiently. So with this system, subsurface drip irrigation, we've got about 98% of water being used by the crop. So it's like me, almost on my hairline in terms of efficiency. So if my hairline goes up, that's probably going to increase the SDI efficiency anyway. But in Kansas, 9 out of 10 of irrigation systems are actually center pivot, similar to what I'm showing out here. So most of our irrigation system out here in Kansas are center pivot system. They are somewhere around 85 to 95% efficient. So somewhere around my neck to around my face is where the efficiency of that system. So most of the water are still being utilized by the crop. So why are we focusing on the application method, sprinkler application in terms of the efficiency? So as I mentioned, center pivot, 9 out of 10. So we're trying to focus, okay, is there a better way to apply that water using a center pivot system? So in most cases, many of the farmers are using a bubbler type. So the bubbler type are very similar to this one, and that they just gush that water, and I think you will see some of this later on in the video. Some of the water are just gushing from a drop, and almost similar to one of this, it's almost dropping the water on that particular system. So what it does is that it reduces the evaporation, the drift. However, it increases the susceptibility for deep percolation and runoff. So those are the types of possibilities that could happen.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well in their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we're glad to answer and work with you.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
This segment brought to you by Sure Crop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
So we've got, you probably heard of mobile drip irrigation or dragon line for most of the, for the businesses. So it's essentially putting drip lines on a center pivot and it's being dragged around. So it's almost like a bubbler, except that it has more hardware and management that has to be dealt with by the farmer compared with a bubbler and a spray. So many farmers are right now also trying different types of sprinkler packages, like what we call a moving plate, the bubbler or moving plate, and many different manufacturers have different variations of this one. So these are the two, and then the other one would be something like this. So there's a lot of engineering going on here, but in most cases, the application is able to apply this water uniformly across the field. So, those are the moving, and then those that are fixed are also like this. So some of them are just spraying the water right around the area where as it goes around, it almost uniformly applies that water. So similar to what I'm showing out here, this is just a fixed plate wherein the water is just being applied in the water. So why are we looking at some of those sprinkler packages? Because not all of them are going to be very useful or at least applicable to each place. So the design should be very careful such that you don't have runoff, you don't have deep percolation, and at the same time you reduce the drift and the evaporation that could possibly come from this irrigation sprinkler packages. So based on the design, most of them are actually very good. What is actually more critical is the way that we design it on the system and the way that we use it. So which drives me to the second point that I'm going to talk about, which is irrigation scheduling. So when do you know you have to irrigate, and how much do you have to irrigate your field? That's a tough question sometimes. So let's go back to the basic. So if I'm a plant, I'm out in the field, I have to cool down because I am in under the sun. So actually 95 to 98% of the water use of the plant is being used for cooling. So most of the water that is being extracted by the plant is used for cooling. So if we are able to know how much water is on the soil, how much water is being evaporated, and how much water is being applied, we have an idea of when to irrigate and how much to irrigate. So the water that is being used by the plant for cooling and for beneficial use, we call it crop water use. Or a more technical term, we call it evapotranspiration. Or to shorten it, it's just an ET. So that's essentially what we are trying to figure out in some of this irrigation scheduling. And fortunately for Kansas, we have an app for that. It's called CanSched. Anybody remembered about the movie Ratatouille? That says, oh, anybody could cook. Anyone could cook. Well, we have a version of that. anyone could sked. So that's why we call it CanSked. Hopefully that you will be able to schedule irrigation system based on known facts like evapotranspiration.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotating cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there was a way to get rid of this pain, then I wanted to do it. So we did it, and it worked. I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Hi, I'm Kim Mandarin with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
So that's one. The other thing that people are using right now, and I think that technology is improving, are the use of soil moisture sensors. So if we know how much water is in the soil, then we probably have an idea of when to be able to irrigate. However, most of these sensors, unfortunately, are not yet accurate in terms of giving us how much water is on the soil. However, it gives us a good idea of when it is too wet or when it is too dry, which gives us an idea of when to irrigate. So, soil moisture sensors are able to help us to be able to do those things. And the good thing about soil moisture sensors is that it goes directly to our mobile devices or computer. So we don't have to go to the field to get the idea of how much water is there, but just give us that information right in our mobile devices. So the third way to be able to do scheduling is by asking the plant itself. Yes, we are going to ask the plant regarding if they need water or not, or if they're hot or not, or if they're happy or not. So how do we do that? Chad mentioned about the satellite and so forth. So in general, when I mentioned that most of the water is being used for cooling, so if you don't have the water, then the tendency for the plant is to get hot. So we are using thermal cameras, thermal sensors, to be able to detect if there are already changes in terms of the temperature of the crop and figure out if we need to irrigate them or not. So that's one. So the thermal temperatures, thermal sensors, either stationary or on a UAVs or drones or on an airplane or even on a satellite miles and miles away out there, could give us an idea of knowing if the plant needs water or not. So that's one. Another technology that is coming out is what we call a dendrometer. So the dendrometer, it's a good term, it's a big term, but essentially it tries to monitor the expansion and contraction of the stem. If it is getting water, it tries to expand, and if it is not getting water or flowing water on the stem, it tries to contract. So that minute movement on the stem, we are now able to detect if they need water or not. It's being used right now in crops like grapes and citrus, but there is already some companies that are trying it with some row crops. So that's another way that we would probably know if the plant really needs. So we are now trying to translate those signals from the crops, from the plants, to tell us if they really need water. However, I'd like to emphasize that those three methods, ET, soil moisture sensors, and the crop itself, they are not always foolproof. Sometimes it fails, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So having one or two or more of those sensors actually gives you more confidence to make the decision to turn on or to turn off the system in most cases. So those are the three. And then the last thing that I'd like to mention is that all of these technologies, there are already farmers that are testing it in their field, or if not using them, out here in Kansas. And they are talking about it, and they are sharing their information about it. We know that because we have been going around with the field days for the water technology farms, and we only prepare about 30 minutes to an hour of program, but the producers stays there for 1 more or 2 more hours trying to just talk to each other about their experience with these technologies. Some of them say that, oh, it's not working in our situation. Some of them would say it works, and this is what I think is going to be successful in our farms. So these are farmers that are trying to educate each other, trying to share their experience about all of these technologies that I just mentioned, and hoping that there will be more adoption of this as we go along. So those are the things that I just like to mention about these technologies, innovations in irrigation. There's a lot of things that are going out in the field soon, but just giving you an idea that yes, there is hope to be able for us to produce more, keep the food affordable in most cases, and be able to address things like drought. I think that for us, it's the irrigation that would give you some insurance that your crop will still go through during those droughts.
Tarwater Farm and Home is a 40-year-old local family-owned business. Clothing for work and play, seeds and feeds, boots, toys for the kids, and tools you'll need for around the house and farm. And a service department to keep them in top running order. It's a big store, so take some time to see what they have for your farm and home. Tarwater's everyday pricing is like others' sale prices. When you need it, they've got it. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard. This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
African swine fever virus is a terrible disease that obviously affects only swine. This is a virus that would have mortality across all ages of pigs. So African swine fever virus is quite a bit scarier than PEDV. This would be important economically to the swine industry. It's estimated to cause about $4 billion of impact if it were to get into the United States. African swine fever virus, because it is a foreign animal disease and a reportable animal disease to the World Health Organization, requires its status to be listed as a biosafety level 3 agent. That means that this research can only occur in laboratories that have biosafety level 3 status, and so all of the research that we're doing with African swine fever virus occurs at Pat Roberts Hall, or the Biosecurity Research at Kansas State University. Pork producers are on heightened alert for this disease to potentially enter the United States, because if it does, most of the highly virulent strains will cause about 100% mortality. In the past 6 to 8 weeks, is that it's now been transmitted into the domestic pig populations in both Romania and in China. China includes about half of our pig population on a global basis. Because of their high concentration of pigs, predominantly in the eastern 1/3 of their country, as the disease has moved into the domesticated swine herd, it's become a real risk for transmission into the United States. That's because we import a high quantity of ingredients and products from China into the U.S. Things like soybean meal and choline chloride have been demonstrated to harbor virus or keep it viable for a long period of time. We have recently put a number of resources on our website, www.ksuswine.org, to help producers and feed manufacturers understand what they can be doing to help prevent African swine fever virus transmission into the United States. Some of these things include just prevention of import of some of the ingredients from high-risk countries that have shown susceptibility to harbor the virus. Having a major virus like African swine fever virus enter the country would be devastating economically to our agricultural sector. It also, I think, would be very damaging from an emotional perspective as we think about about 100% mortality to those affected domesticated herds with no vaccine and no potential treatment.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.